Good afternoon, everybody. Just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming out for a very big day for us here in Piston Land. As you know, we're here to introduce our first-round pick to the public today, Grant Hill from Duke. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our newest Piston, Mr. Grant Hill.
Grant Hill, when he was drafted, I remember Billy McKinney, who was the general manager at that time, cried because this was a superstar player.
I'd just like to say I'm very happy to be here. The last month or two has been very nerve-wracking, especially in the green room last night. But everything worked out well. I had our fingers crossed and said a little prayer, and things went well. And I'm here in Detroit where I wanted to be.
Grant Hill taking it inside, hits the finger roll. He's in the book. His first 2 NBA points.
This kid ran like it was Carl Lewis. You know, he jumped like he was Edwin Moses jumping over hurdles.
Grant Hill, good cut and jam. Grant Hill's first NBA dunk.
Grant Hill was essentially LeBron James before LeBron James came to Cleveland.
Just ready to win. That's all I want to do. And it means me being the big guy, me being the little guy. I'll do whatever. I just want to win, and that's what I'm all about. That's all I've ever done is win.
I mean, a guy that could play 5 positions on the floor, and he did at times.
Houston didn't handle the pass, but finds Grant Hill all by himself for 3 and it's through.
Supposed to play, I should say, down low. Just a nice little lob inside.
There's the lob inside, the alley-oop. Lindsey Hunter to Grant Hill.
I feel comfortable doing a little bit of everything on the court, being versatile both on the offensive end and on defense. So hopefully things will continue.
Grant Hill was such a singular, special superstar. You know, maybe he didn't fit the bad boy mold, but talent-wise, no one would have turned him down and said that he couldn't fit in.
Side lost by Ryder. Pistons on the run. Lindsey Hunter, alley-oop to Grant Hill for a one-hand slam. Sensational. And quick as a bullet.
That rocked the house, did it, George?
I think during 2 or 3 of his years here, he was as good a player as there was in the entire NBA.
Grant drives and a thunder dunk. Pounded and a foul.
I'm watching, it's a summer thing, and Joe Dumars is playing and throws an alley-oop, and I'm like, oh, Joe, that's a bad alley-oop. Well, Grant Hill out of nowhere grabs the ball with his right hand and just dunks the alley-oop, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a great thing.
We're ready to tip it up in preseason game number 1 here, and we're going to give you a chance to take a look at Grant Hill.
Got to be a little nerved out there, huh, George?
Oh, no question. Pistons do with the 10. Here's an alley-oop, and right now, Joe D delivers, and so does Grant Hill.
Well, Grant Hill could, like I tried to talk about before, he could do everything. He was a point forward before the point forwards were ever talked about. I mean, he was smart, he was athletic, he was fierce, he could defend too, which nobody ever gave him credit for. But he just was a gifted all-around player.
I think it's going to be a tough adjustment regardless. But, regardless if you're winning or losing, just the lifestyle and the transition, just like the transition from high school to college is tough. The transition from college to the professional is going to be tough. And of course, it'll be tougher if you lose. But like I said, I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on winning.
Well, it was tough for Grant Hill to come into Detroit for 2 reasons. One, it was the era right after the Bad Boys, a very defined era with a very defined and even flawed superstar in Isaiah. Grant Hill fit the mold of the Detroit Pistons villain, Michael Jordan, a nice guy, bald head, came from an ACC school, Duke, North Carolina. So they didn't necessarily have the most positive image of Grant Hill. They knew he could play. No one could ever doubt that.
For Leitner, but it's stolen by Macon. Forecourt Dawkins, alley-oop to Grant Hill. Grant Hill just back in the game. Skies and jams on the alley-oop.
Well, the Grant Hill era was a strong period of Piston basketball, and it was the follow-up, and it took a few years to get the team back up to a high level, but it was the next step after the unbelievable dominance of the Bad Boys.
You've been very successful on and off the court. You've attained a lot of notoriety and financial rewards. With all that, why is it still important to be known as a good guy?
Now, granted, Detroit wanted a superstar. They wanted someone that they could attach themselves to and get hope for. But they weren't sure Grant Hill had the chemical makeup of what it took to be a tough Detroit Piston.
Kid, you got the moves, you got the talent, you got a problem. You're too nice. We'll fix that. Okay, Mr. Lambier.
Well, I think you could tie Grant Hill in with the bad boys in a certain way. Alonzo Mourning was a young, tough, physical center coming up toward the tail end of the time when Bill Lambier was still manning the middle for the Pistons. And Bill and Alonzo had a dust-up or two.
Mourning. Yep. Put down the shoulder and picked up his fourth.
But Alonzo Mourning was one tough guy.
Bogues up the right side. Shovel pass inside to Mourning. Skying, jamming, and a foul.
Alonzo Mourning was one of those guys. He was an intimidator. And he would try to throw players down, whether it was, Lindsey Hunter or Stackhouse or big guys. He took a little pride in going after the pretty boys, the perceived pretty boys, the Grant Hills, the popular players.
And so, fast forward to the Grant Hill era, Alonzo Mourning is now not just some young, tough center. He's an elite center. He still is perceived as a tough guy, and he and Grant Hill get into it.
Hardaway against Malik. Marley against Grant. The clock's at 10. On a switch. Mourning went down. Grant Hill tackled him. And Mourning has some words. I was watching the ball.
I was watching the play all the way. He set a solid screen on it.
Grant and Alonzo get tied up, and Alonzo's going to try to muscle him. And Grant knows Alonzo is going to try to muscle him. So before Alonzo can really get his arms wrapped around Grant just says, you know what, I'm just going to take this guy down. Knocks him down. Alonzo hits the back of his head. You can tell that Alonzo is both equally stunned, surprised, and maybe a little bit frightened at Grant Hill taking him down and sort of standing over him as if to say, I'm not going to take this from you today.
Good open field tackle by Grant Hill. I know where he learned that from. There's the hard plant right there. And then the takedown by Grant Hill. Alonzo wants to know what's going on.
Blow the whistles, fellas. Here we go.
Intensity level is sky high.
A few plays later, Grant Hill's being guarded by Dan Marley. Old Dan Marley, a physical guy, Central Michigan guy. Grant Hill crosses him over, leaves him in the dust. He sees Alonzo at the rim. He drives right to the heart of Alonzo's chest, dunks on him with one hand, and looks at him and stares at him as if to say, me knocking you down was just the start. I'll get you where it counts, too. So I think that was another one of those plays that sort of began to shake the myth of Grant Hill being a soft player, because I think maybe some of his peers began to buy into it, and Grant Hill had to show them that he wasn't soft.
Grant drives and a thunder dunk! Pounded and a foul!
So Grant Hill had his moments when he proved how tough he actually was. That wasn't necessarily how he wanted to play the game, play after play after play, but when necessary, he would go right at you.
Watch this.
And they will call this one Imagine on Alonzo Mourning.
No doubt about it, as Grant flies through the air, flush on you. That is payback. And then some.